I want to go mushroom picking in the forest in October. Don't want my forests. I don't want guys to settle scores in games some people like to play with people's lives. Stop Putin, stop the war. Stop Russia, stop the war.
Stop the war!
Russia, stop the war. Stop Russia, stop the war.
Stop Russia, stop the war!
Thank you. And I would also like to mention that Russia has been killing Ukraine not only physically, but also culturally. And there are so many names in the history of Ukraine that have been murdered just for the fact that they were creating art and identifying as Ukrainian creators. And one of our most beloved poets, I think people would agree, is Василь Симоненко, who wrote a poem, Чи знаєш, що ти людина? And I translated that one into English. It is, the translation is, do you realize you're human? And if you were Russia, of course you would say no. But yeah, so here's the poem. Do you realize you're human? Do you realize this or not? Your smile is the only one. Your pain is the only one. No one has the eyes that you've got. Today, everything exists for you. The fields, the woods, and the lake. And to live, you cannot ignore it. And to love, you cannot ignore it. You have no time to waste. Sorry. Tomorrow, sorry. Today, everything exists for you. No, wait. Okay, I forgot it. But tomorrow, on this very earth, life will be for some other people. Love will be for some other people. The good, the bad, and the hurt. And so, because on this earth you're human, your smile is the only one. Your pain is the only one. No one has the eyes that you've got. Yeah, I messed that up. But I want to add that Vasyl Simonenko was brutally beaten up by a Russian police, and then he died in hospital at the age of 28 from the wounds that he suffered. And we need to remember these names in our culture of the people who gave their lives just for the freedom to create as Ukrainians. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It was a lovely poem. Right there. This is what we're talking about here, my friends. It's very important that we continue to send this message, not only in our rallies, but also at home and wherever we go. I assume that gentleman who wanted to ask a question is no longer around, is he? Well, alas, some people don't have the patience. Some people simply don't have the patience. My friend, would you like to give your speech too? Thank you.
Пані і панове, ladies and gentlemen. Я приїхав в Київ. Я не буду зараз сказати ні про московські воші, ні про ті гниди, які вони насіяли по всьому світі. Я хочу звернутися до вас. Дякую вам, що ви ходите сюди, що ви протестуєте, що ви живете Україною. Я хочу вам сказати, капля море свята. Ви і є, і крапельки. Слава Україні! Героям слава!
Дякую вам гарно. Від серця сказали, дуже гарно. Капля море святить. важливі слова, і треба кожній людині ці слова пам'ятати. І дуже правильно казати, що ми якраз є ця крапка у цьому британському морі в цей момент, яка зможе показати всім людям, що насправді відбувається в Україні. Дякую вам гарно за те, що ви сьогодні сюди прийшли і це сказали. Дуже гарно. Now I'd like to mention something else, my friends. What's something that Anya has said? The Russians are not going to stop Russia. Truly. More accurate words than these have not been spoken in this rally. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. A more accurate representation of the current Russian regime and the Russian people has not been spoken yet. I have been in yesterday's, or rather in the same day that Navalny has died, me and some other of our friends here, like Age here, our regular camera lady, very professional camera lady, we've come to the Russian embassy to speak to the Russians who were mourning the death of an insane Navalny. And we asked them, what will happen to Russia now? What will be the consequences of Navalny's death? And most importantly, what are they going to do? There was a lot of outrage, a lot of sadness, and we understand that. We can identify ourselves with that. However, all of this outrage and all of this sadness was not backed by any will whatsoever to change the current situation. And that is the real crux of the question right now. Sure, the Russians will say they support us, sure. They will say that Navalny was the opposition to Putin and they oppose Putin. But what is that worth if they will do nothing in opposition? If they will stand aside and simply hope in silence that others do the job for them? It's worthless. My friends, we must not go the same way. And perhaps if anything else, the Russians could learn one thing in particular with the Ukrainian people: the ability to act when it's necessary. This inaction in Russia has been going for a very long time now. This inaction has not stopped with any of the shameless criminal acts of the Russian terrorist regime. This inaction continues, and the cup just never overflows, it seems. No matter how much more blood Putin pours in there, the cup never overflows. The Russians will never act, but they will never change their country, not without a little push. And that push, my friends, is what we can do. If the whole world shows the Russians that there is no future with Putin, if the whole world shows the Russians that there is no light at the end of the tunnel if they continue to follow this abyss after their Visually Dedushka, the happy grandpa, unless that happens, my friends, the Russians will continue to simply lower their heads and say they hope that things change. What is hope worth without action? Good ideas worth without any power to back them up? Nothing. This is the situation in which we are right now, my friends. And I would like to say to every single one of you, thank you for being here, and thank you for making that action happen. Thank you for taking that action into your own hands. That power, that freedom that we have in this free country, in this great country that we are in right now. This is not a power, this is not a freedom that is available everywhere. And it is hilarious to me personally when people come to this country and they continue to trash talk it, saying that it's not free. This is one of the freest countries in the world. Thank you very much. This is one of the best countries in the world. This is a country that spearheads the help for the Ukrainian people. The Ukrainian people support the West. The Ukrainian people admire the West. They see themselves as a part of the West. But if the West does not do what's necessary to help the Ukrainian people, who have thank you very much, who have sacrificed so much for world peace, more than any other nation in the world, then what are those good ideals worth? What is that silent support worth? Come with us, my friends, join us, and together we can make that change happen. All together, we will win.
All together we will win.
All together, we will win.
All together we will win.
All together, we will win.
All together we will win.
Help Ukraine as you promised.
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 World, wake up!
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 Olenivka is one of the clearest examples of the way Russian propaganda works and of the way that the Russian terrorist regime itself works by enforcing their will on the rest of the world. During the days when Stepan Bandera was resisting against the communists, against Stalin, they used to dress up their own Soviet troops in the uniform of his troops, of the UPA, of the Ukrainian rebellious army. And they would commit atrocities and then claim that it was UPA who did so. Same exact thing happened in Olenivka. They did not want to exchange the brave heroes of Azovstal. They wanted to murder them, they wanted to cripple them, they wanted to destroy the very idea of being a hero for Ukraine. That is why they struck Olenivka, killed and wounded the people who were in there, and then blamed the Ukrainians of doing so. Truly, an interesting way of presenting their agenda, of presenting their lies. And this is not the only occasion in which this happened, my friends. The very definition of this war that's happening in Ukraine right now, the very justification of it is exactly the same as what happened in Olenivka. The Russians claim that they're fighting for Russia in a foreign country that they have invaded and whose sovereignty they have accepted many times in many treaties. So what happened to these treaties? What happened to the international agreements that the Russians were part of? For them, they are irrelevant. The only agreement, the only treaty that matters for the Russians is the one that they feel like they will be punished for if they violate it. That is the only thing that the Russian terrorist regime understands. Inevitable and overwhelming consequences, brute force. That is what their country is based on. This country is based on values. This country is based on the strive for a better future. Russia is based on
Ну, видишь, потихоньку сколько людей собирается.
a great Khanate of Muscovy, a country-sized criminal syndicate that will engulf the whole world if we give them the option to do as such. A popular
Там кто про
saying
тебя
in
спрашивает,
Russia,
но
especially for Putin,
за тебя помню.
is that Russia has no borders.
Я в четверг или когда в
That
машине
Russian
сидел
borders
на
never
Чариковке,
end.
думаю, хорошая погода,
What does
10
this
минут
mean?
запишу.
It's very
Чтобы
simple, my
писать,
friends.
начали там лезть.
It means Russia will continue doing what they've been doing until either they are stopped
Я говорю, ходит.
or until they take over the world. And there will be no one else to stop them then.
Я всегда здесь. Я
Now, my
никуда не
friends, we all know very well Russia is in no condition to take over the world right
Ты как
now.
ты добежал? Вот слепни.
But Russia
Нет, я
is
не добежал,
definitely
я
in the
просто
condition
доехал сегодня.
to
А так я
ruin the situation
стартовал
in
с
Europe
Бэкфис.
and degrade it far more than they have
Ты
already.
за Гринвичем, да.
И
Там
дальше
This is
за
something we need to
Гринвичем, дальше
realize
я
at all costs.
побежал на
We need to
Колово и
understand
Канденхау.
that only with action
ты так
will
добежишь
the
до
Russian people
Дартфорда,
finally act.
Брейфорд, Слейпорт.
Only by seeing that the rest of the world stands with Ukraine unequivocally and unanimously. Only by seeing that there is no more future with
Да,
Putin
между своим Гримом
than the future
Грином
of
и
suicide. That is the only way for us to get these supposed opponents of Putin to act.
на следующей неделе очень много
Putin will
должно
eliminate any kind of opposition he has. On the left, on the right, on the center, it doesn't matter. The violence there is reminiscent to the death of Prigozhin.
Сюда ехал, ты думал, будет.
Although Prigozhin represents the very same thing that Putin is, a crook and a criminal, somebody who's an authoritarian leader, somebody who's a criminal overlord. But he went against Putin's ideals, he went against Putin's interests. So we have to go. And the same can be said about Navalny. The death of Navalny is the death of any kind of potential
Какие
for reform in
пропагандистские
Russia.
ролики там
Any
снимают,
kind of peaceful reform, any kind of internal change
завидуют, да.
in Russia. The government does not have the power to remove Putin. In Russia, Putin has the power to remove the government. That is how this terrorist country of Russia functions, my friends. And that is something that everybody needs to understand at long last. Because if we don't, it could be too
Ну да,
late.
им нужен был порт.
Им даже не важно состояние.
These isolationists, self-proclaimed conservatives, who claim that they only care for their own
Я это
country,
слышал, конечно.
they spread ignorance among you, my friends. They claim that nothing matters beyond the borders of Great Britain. Everything matters everywhere, my friends. We live in a global world. And this country, like the vast majority of other countries around the world, is not self-sufficient. It's not a country that can survive by itself without anyone else. Prosperity can be achieved with relations with others. But what kind of relations can we have with Russia? When they betray every agreement they've made, when they feel like they have the minutest gain out of it. How can we make deals with them? How can we negotiate with them? When they have proven that they will attack us and destroy us and backstab us at the first opportunity they get. No. That is not the right way to the future. The right way to the future, my friends, is with Ukraine. The right way to the future
А до этого ты
is
был.
with the destruction of the Russian military in Ukraine and the reformation of the Russian terrorist regime. That is the right future, and that is what we are going to achieve.
Болгария оставалась.
Russia is a terrorist state.
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 Stop Russia, stop the war.
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 Tribunal for Russian war criminals. Tribunal for Russian war criminals.
Tribunal for Russian war criminals.
Tribunal for Russian war criminals.
После этого я был бы здесь.
My friends, as we have said many times in the
Но я
past,
попал сюда
the
в конце
pathway to
сентября.
hell is paved with good intentions.
С тех пор, когда я
Just the mere good intentions without the ability to defend yourself against those who want to destroy you is worthless.
из тех самых
It is
войн,
weakness.
которые
It is the inability of existing
Я вижу по
in a
фото.
world where there are powers who want to do you harm. And there are powers who want to do you a lot of harm. All it takes is for you to take a look at what kind of stuff the Russians write on their tanks and vehicles. They write to Kiev and to Lviv, yes, but also to Berlin, to Washington, to London.
Так?
That is the kind of ideal that the Russians are still pursuing. Not an idea of live and let live, an idea of shameless expansionism. They will continue to expand until their expansion is stopped, until their ambitions are checked, until they are shown that there are consequences for their actions, for their crimes, innumerable. You need to understand this. Because that's the only way for us to move into a better future, my friends. A freer future with trade and international cooperation. A future of peace. However, for the Ukrainian people right now, the only pathway to peace is throughout war. That is what the Russians have forced the Ukrainian people towards by attacking them, by threatening their very existence in this world. The claim that the Ukrainian people supposedly don't exist and have always been part of Russia is as politically savvy as the claim that the Great British never existed. It was always the Americans. My friends, America is more powerful now than Great Britain. But Great Britain is the product of that relation.
Слухай, а Тарас ще тут чи не тут? Вон там. Тарас, вон там стоїть.
Ungrateful son has forgotten the shoulders of his parents on which he stands. He's claiming that his parents never existed in the first place, and it was always him. A particularly interesting example of this, my friends, is when Putin had this meeting with a supposed historian, or a revisionist historian, as we might call it. And he showed them a little map of the French, which said, Ukraine, country of Cossacks. And Putin, the blind grandpa that he is, claimed that there was no Ukraine there, when we can actually clearly see that there was in that map. So for that, my friends, we need to remember what happened, so that we know how to face our enemies head on. Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Слава нації!
Смерть ворогам!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Героям України тричі!
Слава! Слава! Слава!
Ворогам України тричі!
Смерть! Смерть! Смерть!
And now, my friends, we will have a short musical break.